It just tells you what can be done with your mind to it. And you have to be the person to make that decision. So tonight, I'm going to talk to you about my journey. I did get into a bodybuilding competition, but I'm not going to be talking to you about bodybuilding. I'm going to tell you how I got fit up to that point in time, because if I start talking to you about bodybuilding, I'm going to turn everybody off here, because nobody really has that desire. And I can understand why, believe me. It was quite a challenge. But I'll ask you this question to start with. Do you believe in divine intervention? My story is about divine intervention. So this all started years ago, back in the 90s. I was doing a transformation program from a book written by Bill Phillips called Body for Life. Many of you may remember seeing this on the shelf. It was a #1 bestseller. The workout program in this book is very intense. Probably for my age or anything over 35, 40, the recovery on this is going to be tough because it is a very intense program. But I was working out with this program through a challenge that Bill did. Bill owned a company called EAS, which is called Experimental Applied Science. He had a transformation challenge, and this was the application that I entered to get into his transformation challenge. It's all paper, and that'll come back later as to why I'm telling you that now. His transformation challenge through Muscle Media magazine, which he owned also. I'm sorry. And I'll say EAS was a company that he owned. It was Experimental Applied Science, which sold supplements to bodybuilders. And so this was his catalog. He owned Muscle Media magazine. This was the magazines. I got these at the Arnold. The only reason I still have these is because they were autographed. So at any rate, I was working on his transformation challenge, doing well, and about halfway through the program, I ended up deciding I needed to have a physical. I had this weird thing going on. It was just like a trickle of cold water running down my chest. No pain, no shortness of breath, no nothing. I went for a physical, sent me for a stress test. Stress test, I passed perfectly, no problems at all. Did an echocardiogram, sent me on my way home. I get home, the phone's ringing. It's the doctor's office saying, take an aspirin right away and get back up here. So I go back up, they tell me tomorrow morning you're scheduled for a heart cath at 5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock in the morning I go in for my heart cath. I go from there to a critical care unit. They said I could die any second. Didn't have a problem. So I went through open heart surgery, had a single graft bypass. They did it a little bit different. It was called a cabbage. They did the incision through my chest. It was the Widowmaker. So it was a left anterior descending artery, and it was like 99% clogged. And literally, as I said, I was in this critical care unit with other people who looked like they were dying, and I felt perfectly fine. So went through the surgery, came out of surgery, couldn't lift more than 5 pounds. I got chastised for mowing my grass. I got chastised for trying to pull a weed in the yard. It doesn't matter. My wife was saying, you're doing too much. So, I ended up getting depressed, I'll admit that. But I didn't go back to the gym. I lost all my muscle mass. Very frustrating, and I would call it depression, and I'm still mad at myself to this day for letting that happen. But what happened was I got fat. I'm sorry. So this is a picture of my daughter and I. This was my heaviest weight. I was 287 pounds. My mother looked at that picture not long ago, and she said, who is that? So I must be doing something right. So then, I will fast forward now 19 and a half years. So that picture was taken on my 50th birthday. 19 and a half years later, and November 3rd, 2017, obviously I fell out of the transformation challenge, couldn't complete that. I got an email. Totally blew me out of the water. An email from Bill Phillips, the guy that wrote the book, the guy who had the transformation challenge. He said, I'm looking for someone over the age of 40 who's worked out with my program before, had good success, maybe had an adversity in life, got away from it, needs to lose at least 30 pounds, is able to come to my fitness camp this weekend. I have an opening. I'll give you a deal. Send me your story. I sent him my story. 11 o'clock that night, I get an email back from him, said, I want you here. It lit me on fire. To be able to work out with a guy with his credentials just lit me on fire. You want to talk about motivation? That was truly motivation. So I go out to this fitness camp, and now if you go to the next picture, they took before pictures. This was the before picture. Embarrassing pictures, I'll grant you that. I hate them, but literally it tells a story, and I'll get into that either a little bit later on as well. But when you're heavy, you don't want pictures taken of you. You hide. You're embarrassed about it. I get that. I totally do. So at any rate, I go out to the fitness camp, which is in Golden, Colorado, spent 3 days there. It is a $5,000 camp to attend. I ended up having to go, being able to go, and I had to pay like $1,200 because what Bill did was a DEXA scan, which they did a metabolic workup, determine what your metabolic rate is. So this is the scan. It shows you where your fat is in your body, all the percentages, everything very scientific and very complicated. So Bill's plan was basically set on a 12-week plan. So we had to write goals. We had to write our reasons for deciding why we wanted to do this, our patterns of action, and then an eating plan, which he basically helped us develop. It was not counting calories. It was not real complicated. He kept it simple, and that's really what keeps people going. So it was a diet of proteins, which he said you eat according to the size of the palm of your hand. It's carbs the size of your fist. And greens the size of a cupped hand or 2 cupped hands, basically whatever you want to eat that way. So it was, I say, a very basic plan I worked out. Along with it comes a workout program. But they explained the yo-yo diet that everybody goes through. You know, you gain weight, you want to lose it, you go on a starvation diet, you lose it, you gain it back and then some. And what he explained was every time you do that, even though you go through this diet process, the next time you get on the scale again, even though your weight's the same, your body fat percentage is higher. Because your body starts eating muscle to basically keep you sustained. So, I followed the eating plan, and within about a 2-year period of time, that picture was taken on November 11th of 2017. After 2 years, the next picture, my wife took this picture on November 11th of 2019. His workout plan is pretty simple. It's a 5-25 HIIT program. A HIIT program is a high-intensity interval training program. You do 5 exercises 5 times in 25 minutes. In the cycles, so you go from the 5 exercises, between the 5 exercises, there's no rest period. At the end of the 5, you take a 2-minute rest period and start all over again. So you do it 5 times. And I've actually written that up for you if you're interested. I'll pass those out for you. Anyone can do it. You don't have to go to a gym to do it. I chose to go to a gym to do this program because I always have 9,000 other things going on at home and interruptions. I know I'm at the gym. I go there. Our gym is wonderful. It's 24/7, and I can go anytime that I want, get it done, and go. So when I seen the results I got here, one thing I've always wanted to do was get into bodybuilding competition. I am 64 years old. To think that you're going to get a bodybuilding competition at the age of 64 or anything over 60 is almost insanity. Maybe it is insanity. But I had a goal, and that's where this all starts, goals. So I started working out a little bit differently, not a little different, a lot differently, with a trainer. It was, you could almost say, somewhat torture. The trainer that I had put me through the mill. I have my workout partner here with me this evening. It pushed me as well. He may do, I'm going to tell you this, he does a wimpy workout, he pushes me. But but I love it. And he says something wrong with me after he does that to me. I tell him, thanks, Ben. So the HIIT program, again, 5 exercises. You do it based on upper body exercises, lower body exercises, and cardio. It's 6 days a week. We'll say a half hour a night. Everyone has a half an hour a night that they can do this with. The other thing is, and my workout partner said, make sure you're right, you cannot outwork a bad diet. You have to eat properly to do this. The 7th day of Bill's program is a rest day, or a cheat day, so to speak. I will not call it a cheat day. If I've done everything right all week long, I call it my reward day. If I do crazy stuff and eat terribly on that day, then it's a cheat day. I'm cheating myself. So it's just kind of my thoughts on the whole thing, the way I looked at it. Because if I call it a cheat meal, it's like I'm doing something wrong. So I had going into the bodybuilding program, I had a more intense competition, a more intense workout. I had a trainer. I did a lot of cardio, mainly to get my body temperature up. I had posing practice. I had meal prep. I had all this stuff. It was basically a second job. So 2 competitions came up. I had to have a preliminary competition to get into, and that was at the state level. The oldest age group there was 35. You think I was intimidated? I was. I fretted over that for a long time, but I decided I want to do this. I had to get into preliminary to get into the nationals. The nationals were 4 days after the preliminaries. So I will tell you, this is the other problem I had with it. I was trying to compete in what's called classic bodybuilding, and it is a different pair of shorts. Okay. So I show up at Columbus for the preliminary. At my age group, I didn't have to win the preliminary, I just had to compete in one. The younger ages had to win in order to get into the nationals. So I did compete. I was on stage with 35-year-olds, and everything was fine. There was no one chastised me. It worked great. I told my family, don't go. My only goal here is to be fit enough to be on stage. It's a bucket list thing to do. I don't need anybody there. I'm fine going by myself. It's just a thing I got to do. 5 minutes before I go on stage, trainer's wife comes back, gets me, says, I need you out here. I go out in the skimpy little shorts. Yeah. Well, I need to back up just a little bit. When I checked in, the National Physique Committee is there. They check you in. They're very strict. You have to have your passports, you have to have driver's license, you have to wear the shorts you're going to wear on stage, and they weigh you, they measure you, they do all these things, and I'm standing there waiting in line, and this young man in front of me, I'm going to say he's 20 years old, he's got the classic shorts on that I want to wear. And I said to the guy from the National Physique Committee, those are the shorts I want to wear. He says, well, those are classic. I said, I'm well aware of that. He said, well, I can change you. What are you in? I said, I'm in bodybuilding. He says, well, I can change you. I said, do you have a classic over 35? He said, no. My comment was, no man my age should be wearing this. So let's fast forward 4 days. I'm at the Nationals in Pittsburgh. This is a huge competition. There were over 900 competitors. There were 19 people registered in the over 60 class, and there were 17 of those who showed up. Again, did not expect to win anything, just wanted to be fit enough to be on stage. I'll go back, my daughter, my mother, and my daughter's 2 twin 3-year-old girls came to the state competition. Okay, so I go to the Nationals, my daughter, the twins, her husband, and a good friend of mine show up. My wife has to work, and she can't go because we were leaving the day after the Nationals to go to Florida to a wedding, so she couldn't get all the time off. So they're there, and lo and behold, I win 4th place. Didn't expect that. There's no one for medal. Didn't expect that, but it was like winning 1st place to me. It was like winning 1st place. I was ecstatic. So, you have that picture of the Nationals? I don't know if you have that in your...
It's on the next slide.
Okay.
It's the transformation slide. You want to see that?
Sure.
See if this is it.
I had open heart surgery. That modesty went away. But, you have a question?
Well, we were just thinking that your medal's bigger than your shorts.
What did you weigh?
Okay, thanks for reminding me, Ben. This was 287 when I started out, the picture of me with my daughter. I weighed in at 185, lost 102 pounds.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And it's the mindset again, putting your mind into what you want to do. And it's possible. I never thought this was possible. I'll grant you that. I never thought that at my age I could ever get into that shape. But I'm blessed. And again, divine intervention. Why did I get the email from Bill Phillips? I have no idea. He did not have my email address. Everything was paper. How is it that I go to the doctor and really didn't need to go to the doctor? I didn't have any real problems. It was just and then find this problem or I would have been dead. How is it I win fourth place? Divine intervention. I mean, literally speaking, it's all divine intervention. The same way with Skip. His transformation into what he did by people pushing him and getting him motivated is divine intervention. I cannot tell you how many people that I've tried to help, they don't take advantage of it. They just don't. I've given them the program. I've told him what to do. I've worked with a guy for 2 weeks, showed him this is what you do. Worked with me for 2 weeks every night, never showed up again. So there's only person who can make up their mind to do this is you. So again, my meal planning was, I'll tell you, these were my goals that I wrote the day out to Transformation Camp. And they had to be realistic goals. So what are my 5 specific goals? Finish with 12 weeks with the team. We'll compete in at least 60 workouts. No more than 12 free days in the 12 weeks. Going to bed earlier and getting more rest, which still doesn't happen. Improve my blood sugar levels and lipid levels. Then my reasons for doing this, to be alive and here for my family, to improve my body the way I want to look and be healthier, to be an example for others to see what changes can be made. And then you come to your patterns. What are your patterns? Old pattern was eating junk food whenever, wherever, binge eating, and especially sugar. You know, AA, hi, I'm Bob, I have an addiction. I do, it's sugar. I still do. It's tough, very tough. New pattern, planning my meals, eating healthy with no more free days than 1 per week. Drink more water, very important. Preparing for my bodybuilding competition, I was drinking 2 gallons of water a day. The old pattern was no exercise program. The new pattern is starting immediately with a workout program, which is Bill gave me. The old pattern was going to bed late, not getting enough rest. The new pattern, going to bed with plans of being in bed for 8 hours, even if I can't sleep. That still really hasn't happened. I have a terrible time sleeping, but I have somewhat improved. You're going to fall off the wagon on occasion. It's going to happen. But if you fall off the wagon and get back on, it's easier to lose 5 pounds than it is 20 pounds. So keep it in check. The holidays are terrible. My wife didn't understand why I was doing this when I started it. And she wasn't going to change. She said she wasn't going to change, and that's perfectly okay. That was her decision. But for that reason, I still had candy, chocolate, cookies, cake in the house. I had to be able to overlook that. Normally I'd say, throw it away. Get it out of here. My clothes. I went down clothes sizes, and I wear a suit to work every day. I'm a former police officer, but now, in the last 35 years, I've been a banker. So I wear a suit to work every day. I got rid of my suits. My mother's saying, you want to keep them? No, I don't want any inspiration to get me back into something I don't want anymore. I get rid of it. So with that, I'm going to end this by saying one thing. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're probably right.
I got a question.
Yes.
Do they test for steroids in these contests?
Yes.
They do.
Yes. Now, not all contests. There are contests that are very strict about it, there's contests that aren't. That's why I probably will never get any better than what I am as far as on the stage winning first or second place, because those guys had muscles that I couldn't have. And I'm not willing to go those lengths.
Wow.
Any other questions? Well, I hope that I can be your inspiration. I'll help anyone, anything I can do. I do have the handout that I made on the high-intensity interval training program and the writing of your goals. And again, look at those goals every day, and yes.
It's for women too?
Absolutely, absolutely. The camp that I went to was predominantly women, but this works for women and men. And you know, the common thing, I'm glad you asked that question, because the common thing that came up everywhere, well, I don't want the women saying, I don't want big muscles. Unless you're taking testosterone, you're not gonna get big muscles. You're not. You're gonna get muscular, more muscular, I'll grant you that, but you're not gonna get these big muscles. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, the other, one thing I do want to say also is Bill has several other books. This is one that I used, Eating for Life. He had Fit for Life, Eating for Life. He's got Transformation and another one. I have all his books. And he also has one on developing your abs, which I need to use it a little bit better. That's one of my improvements I need to make. But I kept my diet the same all the time. That way it was easy. But there are so many different ways you can go. Yes.
What's your last name?
Michaels.
Michaels. Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you coming. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
So a couple things. So we're talking about this transformation. Obviously, Bob increased his metabolism. I don't know if we've talked about this enough. I just want to quiz you. Can you tell me two ways? Well, first of all, I think we talked about this. We'll talk about this during the cardiovascular week. But when you increase your metabolism, what does that mean? What are you doing? Because we say increase my metabolism, but what's actually happening in your cells that makes that happen? Anybody remember? Oxidation, yes. So we'll talk about this more with cardio, but what you're doing is you're increasing the number of mitochondria in your cells. The mitochondria is what burns fat. So Bob was able to burn that excess fat off in the middle to this because of the high interval training. The high interval training is when you're out of breath, you're short of breath, you can't breathe, you feel out of breath, and that increases the mitochondria. So that increases your metabolic rate. There's no other way to do it than that, okay? So we'll explain that in week 9. But the other way you increase your metabolic rate is what does muscle burn for energy? Does it burn sugar or does it burn fat? Do you know? It burns fat. So the more muscle you have, the more fat you'll burn. So the reason he made this transformation is he was training the muscles to grow. You don't just do that at a gym where you're just kind of doing 12 reps and then you move on to the next machine. You have to do 10 to 15 reps and then you can't do anymore. And you rest a minute and you do it again and you do it again and again. And when you're done, your muscles feel full of blood. Your arms feel like they can't hold any more blood. That's how you increase the muscle size. But this is natural muscle size increase. In women, like you said, there's no way you're going to get big and muscular like these women that you're afraid of becoming without testosterone. So he's absolutely right on that. Okay, so let's, I gave a couple handouts tonight just as a guide for you. One has to do with supplements, and the other one is a food pyramid, kind of an eating guide, okay? And I have a couple more that I'll get passed out for you next week. Okay, so just, I just want to ask you, how did you do this last week? Looking at your pantry and looking for these things on the ingredient labels. Did you see how it's in everything? High fructose corn syrup, enriched flour, and partially or fully hydrogenated fats. It's in everything. So what's the problem with enriched flour? Why is that not the best for us. It's deficient. It's deficient in micronutrients. There's only 4 or 5 nutrients added back once we take everything out. And everything else is deficient. Magnesium, selenium, folic acid, all of those are deficient. So that's a deficient diet. What's the problem with high fructose corn syrup? What does that do to us? It increases your blood sugar, which causes inflammation. And when your sugar goes up, what does your body do with fat? It makes it, yeah, and then it stores it. You don't want to do that. And high fructose corn syrup increases your appetite. Okay, what's the problem with hydrogenated fats? Where do you find these hydrogenated fats? Nowhere in nature, right? You're putting something, an abnormal molecule in your body, and it causes what? Starts with an I. Inflammation, you got it. Okay, that makes you hurt more, makes your cholesterol levels go up, increases your risk of heart disease and stroke and diabetes and all those chronic diseases. Okay, so hopefully, like I said, now when you eat these foods, you feel a little guilty about it. And you're trying your best not to eat them. Okay, so this is a quick review of oxidative stress. Oxidative stress and inflammation are the same thing. Oxidative stress is how inflammation occurs. So inflammation starts with a free radical, right? I tried to explain what this was on the slides. It's highly reactive, and it damages all parts of your body, your proteins, your fats, and your DNA, increasing your risk of cancer, increasing your risk of wrinkles, increasing your risk of protein damage and not able to repair your cells. So this was the image for a free radical, a molecule that has an unpaired electron, steals from atoms next to it, and when it does, this is neutral, but now this is highly reactive. It's going to bump into another atom, steal its electron, and at some point in this nuclear reaction, it's going to steal an electron from, say, a protein. And when it does that, it'll cause the protein to change its shape, and the body won't recognize what it is, or it won't function properly. If it does that to your DNA, it changes the DNA, and it predisposes you to cancer or irregular growths. Okay, so this is a destructive process, like an ember popping out of a fireplace onto your carpet. It may burn out, it may catch the house on fire. The house on fire is cancer or really bad disease. Okay, so you have a way to protect yourself from these free radicals, and the way we protect ourselves is by antioxidants. Antioxidants are unique molecules because they can donate, and they have an extra electron, and they can donate it to stop this reaction, and then it's done. And the antioxidant says, we're fine, we don't need that extra electron, so there's no further propagation of the problem. So where do you get antioxidants? Where's the best place to get them? Foods. Where's the, yes, vegetables, fish oil, foods. Where's the worst place to get them? Health food stores. Trick question. But you can. You can take supplements, but not at the expense of food, right? It should come from foods. Okay, so these are some of the antioxidants. So we have these vitamins, vitamin A, C, E, and D. They're antioxidants. We have the carotenoids. These come in naturally. They're found in these fruits and vegetables. We have phenolic compounds, which are in foods. And we have enzyme systems. Probably the most important enzyme system is this superoxide dismutase is important. It requires copper, zinc, iron, and manganese. Copper, zinc, iron, and manganese are not going to be in enriched products, enriched flour. Those get stripped out and they never get put back, right? So that's why we have to be careful with enriched products. We got to eat nuts and seeds and beans and whole grains in moderation, and a lot of fruits and vegetables to get those micronutrients. Probably the most important of these is glutathione on the bottom. This is what keeps your liver healthy. And you see what's required for glutathione? For this system to work, you need zinc, selenium, magnesium, and the B vitamins. And you'll see on my handout, if you picked it up, what's the most common mineral deficiency? It's magnesium. What's the most common trace element deficiency? It's selenium. What's the most common water-soluble vitamin deficiency? It's the B vitamins. So it's because of our diet. And that's why I'm recommending that most of you supplement with these to some degree. Okay, so these antioxidants, God has said, I'm going to help you. I'm going to strategically put these antioxidants in your body to help your body fight off the inflammation of oxidative stress, which is the inflammation from free radicals. So your cell membranes are loaded with vitamin E, and that stops that free radical reaction from damaging the cell membrane that protects your cell. Vitamin C is what protects your blood. So when I exercise, especially basketball, those days I will double my vitamin C intake to protect my red blood cells and my blood cells. Glutathione is the most important antioxidant in the liver, and your liver needs a break. Your liver is seeing everything bad you put into your mouth, everything that you don't realize you're doing, every pesticide, every medication, every drop of alcohol, everything that's toxic to the liver. Your liver says, we're going to fight that off with glutathione. But remember what I just showed you? What glutathione needs? It needs zinc, selenium, magnesium, and B vitamins. Okay, and then we have CoQ10 and lipoic acid. Those are the antioxidants inside your cells. Some of you need to take CoQ10, especially if you take statin cholesterol medicines, because those deplete that. You don't want to be running low inside your cells on CoQ10. You will not feel good. You'll feel tired. You will have muscle aches and pains, just like the people who take statins feel. And then nitric oxide. We've talked about that. I can't tell you how powerful that is, how important that is.
I got a question.
Yes.
I don't understand it, because what, does it stay in your blood level, or wherever, on an even basis, or does it go up and down?
These antioxidants?
No, nitric oxide.
Nitric oxide. Your body is continually making nitric oxide.
So if you measured it, it would stay stable?
No, it goes up and down. It goes up with, your need for nitric oxide goes up with exercise. So that would be a stimulus to make nitric oxide.
Okay,
But you have a baseline level of nitric oxide, but it can go up with stimulation.
But if that's so important, why don't they test for it on their annual physical?
It's really unstable. Its half-life is like a second. I mean, it's just, you make it and you use it quickly. It's really hard to measure. That's why they don't measure it. Okay, but these are important for so if your blood pressure is high, you're probably not making nitric oxide. Erectile dysfunction in men and women, not enough nitric oxide. Okay, so it acts as an electron donor, but it does so much for blood flow everywhere. Okay, and then we talked about what happens when there's too much inflammation or free radical stress that we're not balancing with antioxidants. These are the diseases. So every organ in your body will pay a price for years and years of abuse in terms of the nutrition you have. So I'm not going to read all those, but as you go around, you could probably see, I got one in this area and one in the brain and one over here I'm worried about. It's all inflammatory. It's all oxidative stress. So we fight oxidative stress with antioxidants. We avoid foods that cause more oxidative stress, and then we eat foods from the produce section to help us. What Bob shared, those books from Bill Phillips, I have those books. They were, I did the same workout program in the early 2000s. It's a good nutrition plan. It's very similar to what we're talking about here. It's like, I'm not inventing anything new with the nutrition plan I'm giving you. I've given you a pretty strict one. But some people go to extremes. This is pretty much middle of the road, good nutritional advice, whether it's from me or Bill Phillips' book. Okay, so there's this constant battle where you're stressing your body and you're making it inflamed. And what I'm trying to show you is this is normal metabolism. You're going to make antioxidants. Exercise is going to do it. But then you have exposures to toxins, either inadvertently or because you choose to use alcohol or take too many medications or you're smoking. You're going to pay a price. And then there's ionizing radiation, which it's invisible, but it's out there and it can affect us. So these are the enemies to our body. But we have a way to counter that. And I tried to give you this illustration that the best way is not with supplements and not with ionized water, it's with food. In fact, If I could make this one smaller, I probably would, because too many people want to eat junk food and take supplements. To me, that's a waste. But I think there is definitely a role for supplements. And I know that ionized water is a new concept, and when you watched it, some of it was really technical chemically. I'm going to share with you this week like a 30-minute video that will explain and show you what this ionized water can do. Okay, so I know a lot of you may not be interested in it, but I think it's a very worthwhile video to at least watch. So this is what oxidative stress does. It causes us to age faster. It causes inflammatory diseases. Yeah. So the liver is a chemical cleaner. It's kind of cool that your body absorbs all this food and says, before we circulate it, we got to check it. We got to check every molecule, make sure it's good for you. So it goes to the liver. That's what the liver does. Good, okay, you can go through. Bad, we don't like you. We got to bind you with something else. We're going to put you in bile. So when we squirt that bile out of your gallbladder, you're going to excrete it in your feces. The body is really smart on how it cleans itself. But if your liver is damaged, remember last week I showed you the cirrhotic liver? That liver doesn't function. The liver that was fatty, with the fatty streaks, that liver is stressed. It's those yellow streaks in a fatty liver, that's oxidative stress to an important organ. But that is reversible. Okay, so this is kind of the things that it does. Okay, so we talked about supporting the liver to be healthy. So fasting is a great way to let the liver just take a rest and regenerate. We know if we cut a piece of the liver out, it'll regenerate, it can grow back to a certain degree. And then there's this antioxidant support. N-acetylcysteine, NAC is the acronym for it. That's a really good one if you're going to try to help your liver become healthy. The reason I know that is because this is what we use when people overdose on Tylenol. It's a suicide attempt. That's the antidote. We give them N-acetylcysteine to help them. So that's a good one. Selenium, you got to have that for your glutathione to work well.
What are your
Yes.
thoughts on quercetin?
Quercetin, yeah, that's another good antioxidant, and I'm not sure the mechanism of that. I probably need to look into that and let you know next week.
Controversial.
Yeah. So yeah, I know a lot of people were recommending that as a supplement with COVID,
Yes.
but I need to look into the mechanism of that, so I'll try to find out more and let you know. Okay, so you heal. This is how you heal primarily. It's not with supplements, probably not with water, although that can make a difference. It's with the foods that nature has provided you. These foods that have color in them are rich in antioxidants, and it's nature's blend. You can go buy lycopene at the health food store. Lycopene is a great antioxidant in tomatoes, but tomatoes have a lot more antioxidants than just lycopene. So eat the tomato. If you want to supplement with lycopene, you can, but eat these foods. You're going to get a much better blend of what nature wants you to have if you eat these foods and you chew them well. So the foods that heal, these are the foods that heal, right? And I put this image up here just to get you thinking, that's what I need to be seeing when I look at my plate. So they're rich in antioxidants, they contain the sun's energy, and when we can measure that energy. It's called the ORAC score. It's if you measure that energy, it's high in antioxidants. On an ORP meter, oxidation reduction meter, it will be a negative charge, meaning it's energized. When these foods rot, just like when we rot, there's no energy left. When you die, your body you've stopped breathing, there's no way a dead body will conduct electricity. But a live body does conduct electricity. Okay, and these foods should also be absent of pesticides and genetically modified foods. So we talked about what phytochemicals are. Phyto means plant, so these are plant chemicals. And when foods have color in them, they have phytochemicals, and they help us fight inflammation. They also do protective things to the plants. The plants need protection. They need antioxidants. So it's like their own protective measure against the insults of the environment. Okay, so these are foods that heal. This is it. This is like the food pyramid. Okay, so you see on the bottom, it's vegetables. You're not going to feel full on vegetables. You eat salads and vegetables all day, you won't feel full. What type of food are you going to feel full on? I got to give you a clue. Carbohydrates, proteins, or fats? Nobody wants to say fats because you're afraid of fats. Fats are what makes you feel full, right? The right type of fats. Carbohydrates are going to make you feel hungry, right? So we have to be careful. So you'll see I have a small little image here for carbohydrates, these whole grains. And why did I put fruits up here on the top? Sugar, right? But those are berries. That's the berry family is the best family. Now you can have watermelon and cantaloupe and apples. There's a little more sugar in it, so just be careful. You have an apple for a snack in the afternoon, you're probably going to be hungry in an hour or two. If you have an apple with nuts or seeds, you're going to have fat and protein, and that will help to not help you feel hungry. Okay, so foods that heal. Vegetables, fruits, food you just saw. This is a written form of that image. And we talked about animal proteins. I don't think you have to be vegetarian, but I do think you have to be careful that you don't eat too much animal protein. And there are other ways that you can get protein in your diet. Okay, and then we talked about plant proteins. People don't realize that plants have proteins in them. And they're good sources of protein. Beans are an excellent source of protein. Nuts and seeds are an excellent source of protein. So you don't have to just think of meat as a protein source. We'll talk about I think we did talk about your protein needs. Did we talk about that in the lecture this week, how you calculate how much protein you need? Maybe that's going to come next week. Yeah, it comes next week. Okay. All right. Then we talked about carbohydrates. You have to be careful because they make you hungry and they increase your appetite. Okay. So we want to stay away from these refined carbohydrates because they're deficient. See, these elements that we need for our liver, selenium and zinc, and the B vitamins, folic acid, that's what you have in all these packaged foods at the store, and all your fast foods and all your vending machine foods. It's not going to kill you right away. It's just going to catch up. Your body's going to say, you're straining me here because I don't have enough selenium. I don't have enough zinc. Okay, and then we have, these are the foods that Bob likes. These are the foods that I like. These are the foods that most of us like, right? I almost hate to put that up there because some of you are salivating right now. I'm getting really hungry. If you're getting really hungry looking at this, you know what it tells me? You've been eating too much of it lately. Okay, so if I had these autoimmune conditions, whether it's MS, rheumatoid arthritis, or lupus, or any of these would be the foods I'd be afraid of. As much as I want to eat them, there's a price to pay. Okay, so when we talk about weight loss, you have to eat less and exercise more. Does not always work, okay? And do you know why that is? Why doesn't that always work? It worked for Bob, right? I think it did work for Bob. But if Bob was a 64-year-old woman, he'd probably be disappointed, right? Ladies, why is that? What are you lacking at menopause that makes weight loss difficult? Estrogen, right? That's why women struggle with this. So when we talk about estrogen later, you'll know how important that is to help you. Okay, so to lose weight, we got to reduce our carb intake. That's basically it. And I think Bob was saying that too. 50 to 75 grams a day. I gave this recommendation to a couple and it didn't work for them. When the woman went to 35 grams, the weight just melted off. That's not a lot. If you're counting, that's not a lot of carbohydrates. How are you going to feel full on salad and beans and a few berries every day? You're not. You got to have fat in your diet. You can't be afraid of fat in the diet. Then intermittent fasting is another way. So we've talked a little bit about that. Intermittent fasting isn't just 18 hours. It's challenge your body, confuse the body. Maybe a week you go 18 hours and then one day the next week it's a 24-hour fast, except for your non-caloric water or your fluid intake. And every now and then maybe do a 36-hour fast or a 2-day fast. When you start doing this, the 2-day fast gets easier. You're not as hungry because you're not eating carbs. Insulin goes down, and ghrelin, that hormone in your brain that makes you say, I'm starving, that message just isn't there. It doesn't drive you to the carbs. Okay, so we have to be careful. So we want to focus on these foods, kind of beat that one to death. Okay, and I just mentioned this. Exercise builds muscles and increases your heart rate. It will help you lose weight. But if you're trying to just exercise your weight off, you got to do it like the Biggest Loser does, and those people gain their weight back. And they're eating pretty good at the time, but the approach is really backwards. To lose weight, it's primarily diet. Increase your metabolism with cardio, increase your metabolism with some muscle strength gains. If you're a woman, you have to balance your estrogen, and all of us need to make sure our thyroid is optimal. And like Bob said, you got to get enough sleep. If you're sleep deprived, you will be more hungry, I guarantee you. And you'll be more likely to eat things you shouldn't eat, because when you're tired and you don't feel on top of your game and you want something to make you feel better, a bottle of Coke, a Snickers bar will make you feel better for a while, and then you'll feel hungry and you'll feel bad. So sleep deprivation, yes,
You mentioned sleep, and you have melatonin as a supplement.
yes.
Is that safe to take melatonin?
Your brain makes melatonin, okay?
Or
You're,
do it as a supplement?
yes, you need it. And we'll talk about that in week 11, but you're making less and less melatonin because of our age. The older we get, the less we make. I told this to somebody today. When you go out in the sunshine, sun enters your eyes, it tells your pineal gland in your brain, make melatonin. And then you release it right now when the sun goes down. But what happens to us? We live in Ohio. We don't have a lot of sun. We wear sunglasses. We stay inside, so we don't make it very well. And then when it's time, when we should be in a cabin with a candle light on, we're in our house with all the lights on, then we're in our bed with our cell phone on, we're looking at our cell phone or looking at our iPad, watching TV. We have all that artificial light, and we turn the lights off at 11, and the body says, wow, the sun just went down. It's going to be 2 hours before I can give you enough melatonin, if I've got it, to make you tired. So melatonin is a great supplement. The question is how much? Everybody has a different amount that they need, so experiment with it. Some people get nightmares on it and don't like that. Some people, like me, 1 milligram put me out for the night, and I was tired until about 2 the next day. So I had to cut the melatonin back. So what you cannot do to eat to lose weight. Bob knows this, I know this. Doesn't mean we don't do this. Okay, let me keep moving here. So I mentioned a little bit about the importance of water. Why do we need it? Because we are a biochemical reaction. If we dehydrate ourselves, the biochemistry doesn't work. We take all the water out, we just sort of freeze. Nothing, our body, even our enzymes are moving. These proteins are moving, and they're building, the enzymes are building proteins and building our body. You take water out of the picture, everything stops. It doesn't work. You add water and it works.
I have another question.
Yes.
I saw this guy on TV, he couldn't walk. The next week, after he took these little fruit and vegetables in a capsule, he was throwing a football. How does
Wow.
that work?
I have no idea.
You know what I'm talking about? These powdered
Yeah.
fruits in a pill. Is that any good?
No, you don't chew?
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds kind of like a miracle. When you hear these stories about something, he couldn't walk until he took this pill. Most of this is based on some biochemical thought, but the proof is in the pudding. If you try and it doesn't work, then don't spend any more money on it. But if you think it might work, give it a try, and then
No.
you tell me. But that doesn't make any biochemical sense to me.
No.
Okay, but you do have to have water, and if you're 5% dehydrated, you won't think as clear. You won't perform as well. You have to stay hydrated. As the older you get, the less water you have. So the elderly, they don't make as much saliva, they don't sweat as much, they dehydrate quicker. Men don't urinate as well, and they don't want to struggle with that, so they don't drink, and we all get dehydrated as we get older. Okay, that's the most common treatment in the emergency room. You come in, we're going to get an IV and give you a liter of fluids and see if you feel better. We're also electrical energy. As I said, we can conduct it. If somebody wants to do the experiment, lick your finger and stick it in the socket. We could all get shocked, right? Just hold hands and we could all feel that. We are electrical energy, but that electrical energy water conducts it very well. Okay, so not all water is created equal. I don't think I need to repeat this because I talked about this in the PowerPoint that you watched. Okay, bottled water I think is not my favorite. I know that's what most people drink. Bottled water has, in plastic bottles, has petroleum-based products in it. If that heats up, you're going to leach the petroleum-based products, the BPA and other estrogen-like compounds called xenoestrogens. That leaches in the water, and then you're drinking these chemicals. This is one of the contributors to all the fibroid tumors that women have. Not the only one. And not every woman who drink a lot of bottled water are going to have fibroid tumors, but it's one of the contributors. Certainly don't get a pack of it and leave it in your car in the summer when it's hot for a week. Keep it cool because the heat will cause more of these petroleum products to leach out. Okay, and then you have to find the best way to clean your water. Not many of us drink tap water, right? It tastes pretty disgusting. And it's not really that clean. I mean, there's birth control pills in it. There's molecules from somebody's Norvasc they flush down the toilet. Small amounts, but it's there. It's recycled water. I mean, when I went in my residency, I went to the water treatment plant in Columbus, and I looked at the water coming in. It was disgusting. There were condoms and tampons in this water, and it was being cleaned and filtered, and you know, they put chlorine in it to kill all the bacteria. They put lye in it to make it so it's not acidic, and they can't get all these molecules out. The bacteria are dead. Otherwise, you know, they wouldn't pass inspection. But it's not the cleanest water. So these other water sources are probably a better choice. And ionized water, I'll share with you something that you can watch, and you can see the machine that I have and how valuable this can be. So we talked about supplements, and just remember what supplements mean. It means you're supplementing, you're not substituting for a healthy diet. So we have these nutritional deficiencies because our food is not adequate to protect us from free radical damage. A salad today contains 15 to 76% less nutrients and has the residues of pesticides and nitrates compared to the same salad 80 years ago. Yeah, I was trying to make sure that was right, math, but yes. Okay, and so you understand where the RDA comes from, right? This is not God saying, all you have to do is get your vitamin C level right here and you'll be fine. This is where 95% of the of our population, their levels for these vitamins would fall. First of all, our population is not healthy. Secondly, just because they fall here doesn't mean we're meeting our requirements. And I know that because I have checked my blood levels. I know my vitamin C levels meet the standard of 60 milligrams a day as the RDA average. My vitamin C requirements are like 500 milligrams a day. So if I just follow that recommendation, I'm not going to do well. But I also realize not all of you are going to take every vitamin at the health food store. So I'm just trying to guide you with the handouts as the ones that are probably the most important. Okay, and then we talked about the history of this, the RDA. It was revised in 1989, and then they stopped revising it because they said, we actually can't tell you what an individual's specific needs are. This was never intended for an individual application. This was for groups of people. What do pregnant women need to stay healthy? What do the elderly, what does a teenager need? That's what that's what the RDAs are for. So they can't really help us. And we're so unique with our medical issues and our medications, our activity levels, our limitations that it's impossible for them to tell us what we need individually. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to skip through this just so we can keep moving. Our nutritional content of our food has changed remarkably. So we can keep growing crops in the same field for years and years if we give those crops nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. But we're not giving those crops magnesium, selenium, zinc. We may be to a degree, but probably not as much as we need. All right, so let's talk about some of the supplements. We talked about the fact that we're malnourished, that medications, almost every prescription medicine will increase your nutritional needs. So vitamin C, it's the first, told you this, first line of defense in the blood of oxidative stress. One study showed it slowed atherosclerosis. One study doesn't really mean much, but it's something to think about. It does all these things. It enhances collagen production. If you want to slow wrinkles, you should be supplementing with vitamin C in your 30s before they start, but you can start it at any time because collagen that keeps your skin tight requires vitamin C to make it. Okay, so the average is probably 1,000 milligrams a day for most of us. This is vitamin B. We talked about homocysteine. I don't get rid of that very well. I'm not driving that reaction forward. And when this builds up, it increases the risk of heart disease. Both my parents have a defect in the enzyme that gets rid of this. So if this builds up, it causes damage to the arteries. So what you need to drive this forward this way is folic acid, B12, and B6. So that's why, if you've got this, you should take a B complex every day. And you can have your primary care doctor measure your homocysteine level. You want that to be below 7 or 8 to be optimal. Okay, here we go. Okay, vitamin A. You probably don't need to supplement that. A multivitamin might have vitamin A in it, but most of us get enough of that in our diet if we're eating green leafy vegetables. Too much vitamin A can be toxic to the liver, so it's not something to go out and say, I'm going to buy this as a separate supplement. Vitamin D is something that I think most of us need. In fact, I know we need it because we're all very, very low here in Ohio. And you should, if you have your levels checked, you should be between 50 and 80. This is kind of the ideal. Most of us are around 30 or less. It's not ideal. You probably won't feel any different taking vitamin D, but it does boost the immune system. It's more of a pro-hormone. It helps your diabetes. It's just really important to take this. This is really good for your immunity against COVID. Okay. So 5 to 10,000 units a day. Most of you only take 1,000. That's not going to be enough. 5,000, almost all of you need. All of us need it. Probiotics are capsules that help put healthy bacteria back in your gut. I saw a lady today who, for the first time, she's having stomach problems, bloating, pain. She's having really bad heartburn, and she's been scoped. Everything's been done. She can't figure out what's going on. Well, she got sick a couple years ago and was put on steroids and then antibiotics for a long time, and then she started having these problems. Steroids and antibiotics kill those healthy bacteria in the gut, can cause heartburn issues, can cause the bloating and the pain she's having. So I said, get a probiotic, get a refrigerated, capsulated probiotic, buy a bottle. When that bottle is done, get a different brand. When that's done, get a different brand, because each brand has a different mix of these bacteria, and you don't know what you need. But you won't need probiotics your whole life. You just need it to help you get started. And the best way to improve your gut health is the foods that we just talked about. If you present that food to those bacteria in your gut, they will begin to heal. The good bacteria will flourish. The bad bacteria will be starved out. So healing the gut really starts with food and not probiotics, but I think this is a good supplement. Okay, let me get through vitamin E. This helps you it protects the cell membranes. It's an antioxidant. It's odd that 20 years ago, that cardiologists were all saying take vitamin E, 400 units to 800 units a day. Then all of a sudden they stopped saying that. The reason is they did a study that said it doesn't make a difference. The problem with that study is it had 8 different forms of vitamin E in the diet, and you don't see the impact of 8 different types. You see the impact with D-alpha tocopherol. That's the best one. if they did a study supplementing just this form, they would come back and say, yes, we see the benefits in heart disease. So if you got heart disease, this is something you might think about. Otherwise, I think just eat your healthy meals and you'll be okay. Magnesium, you got to think about magnesium. I had a patient today said, our whole family has this twitch in our eye. Somebody told me to take magnesium and it stopped. I said, yeah, I would have told you that too. Twitches and muscle cramps are the first treatment is magnesium. Most common mineral deficiency. It helps to lower blood pressure. That would be the first supplement I'd say if your blood pressure was borderline. Here's the key, is you want to take the right type of magnesium. This is what we have in our hospital. This doesn't even work. It doesn't absorb well, it doesn't work. This is the best type, magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate. So don't get this other stuff because it's not absorbed. If you can't tolerate it because it gives you diarrhea, then take a bath with Epsom salts. Epsom salts is magnesium sulfate, and let that soak into your skin and you get magnesium that way. Okay, glucosamine is really good for joints and arthritis. If you take enough for a month, 50% of us will say our arthritis is better. I just heard that recently. Somebody told me that. I don't remember who that was, but somebody just said, after a month, I definitely can tell my arthritis is better. It doesn't work for everybody, but it might be worth a try. We talked about omega-3 fatty acids. That comes from fish and other healthy fats. It can reduce arthritis pain, help your cholesterol. You can get this from fish oil or flaxseed. Most people, they'll take 1 or 2 of those big gel caps a day of fish oil. That's probably not enough. I think it should be 5 grams a day. A big capsule is 1 gram. You might see an improvement with your cholesterol profile on a little bit of fish oil, but not as much as you probably should. I'll show you an example of that here in a second. Alpha lipoic acid is another potent antioxidant. It's a key factor in 5 of the enzymes that you use in metabolism. It helps to convert sugar to energy. That's a good thing to have. Decreases inflammation. It regenerates vitamin C and E and glutathione. That's pretty cool that your body can regenerate these important antioxidants. Decreases sun aging and cancer development. Helps the liver. It helps fight against these diseases. This is the dose if you're going to take it. We talked about CoQ10, protecting the DNA. Just a reminder, if you're taking these medicines, I guarantee you it's depleting CoQ10. And it's not just these, it's beta blockers like metoprolol, it's lisinopril, it's Cozar, in this chapter of the book I gave you a table with just some of the prescription medicines that are affected by CoQ10. So you can go back and say, if I got these prescriptions, I probably had to think about taking CoQ10. And then food enzymes. Some of you who have bloating, diarrhea, or other digestive problems, try a food enzyme. Get it from the health food store. Get a capsule that's refrigerated, and take it with your meals and see if it doesn't help you digest your foods better. It's just a boost for the enzymes in your body that might not be operating as well as they should for the digestive process. So again, that's bloating, belching, diarrhea, gas, anything digestive. You might want to try those. Okay, other factors that influence your nutrition is the health of your gut. These are indicators that your gut might not be healthy. You've got chronic acid reflux, antibiotic use, constipation, diarrhea, prescription inflammatory bowel, all of those. Then there's environmental toxins that can affect your gut health. Okay, let's see. So here's the list of supplements that I kind of like. On this one, you don't need a bunch of antioxidants. You can just pick one. If you need CoQ10, I would take it, but I like turmeric. I think that's a really good antioxidant. I'm not really convinced you need to take a multivitamin once a day. If you're eating a healthy diet, you probably don't. But you do need these other vitamins and minerals that we tend to be deficient in. We all are low here. Most of us need this. Most of us are low here. This is low. So these don't cost a lot of money. But some of you, the budget kind of starts to get thin if you're taking all these. Okay, so let me show you. I know I showed you on the presentation. but let me show you what happened with my chemistry as a great illustration of the value of these supplements. Okay, so we know homocysteine, I said your level should be less than 7. C-reactive because high levels injure your arteries. The C-reactive protein should be less than 1. That means you've got very low inflammation in your body. HDL is the good cholesterol. We want it high. We want the bad low. We want the vitamin D level up. Triglycerides we want low. Insulin we want, if your insulin level is here, the weight is going to melt off of you unless you're a woman struggling with estrogen. And then hemoglobin A1C is a 3-month marker of your sugar. You want that to be low. So before I was doing everything right, my homocysteine level was high because it runs in the family. And I can blame the family because I know the biochemistry. Parents are high, so this is high. This wasn't too bad. This was a little bit low. There's my cholesterol level that's too high. My vitamin D level is like everybody else. It's too low. This was okay. This wasn't bad, and this was all right. The problem was I weighed more than I wanted to weigh. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do the things that are easiest for me. Exercise has never been a problem, and supplements are easy. So I took the supplements I just showed you, and this is what happened. The homocysteine came down because I was taking antioxidants. I was taking 5 grams of fish oil a day, a teaspoon of fish oil. That, I think, brought it down. And then the C-reactive protein, that came down with some of those supplements. It was already decent, but it came down even nicer. HDL cholesterol didn't do much. Look what the fish oil did for my bad cholesterol. It dropped it 14 points. Whoop-de-doo. And that would be like taking 5 big gel caps every day. That's a lot. People say, well, that'll help. Yeah, that's about how much it helps. And then my vitamin D, I started taking 5,000 units a day. And I realized that that's not even enough for me. Okay, so the triglycerides, that came down with fish oil. So I exercised more, took supplements, didn't really change my diet, and I lost a whopping 3 pounds. Couldn't exercise it off. Then I started eating the foods that we talked about tonight, and this is what happened. So the weight came off, the insulin level came down enough to support that. If I would have said, you went from here to here, I wonder how much weight you lost. Because I know that means I was going to lose weight when the insulin came down, because I don't have to deal with estrogen like some of you guys do. Okay, so but look what happened here. I was taking a handful of supplements every day. I just stopped taking the B vitamins, and my homocysteine level went right back up. Even though, I mean, it makes my urine turn yellow because of the riboflavin. Otherwise, it doesn't. I don't feel any different, but it clearly helps my biochemistry. C-reactive protein remained good. Look what happened with plant foods. Look at my good cholesterol went up. Look at my cholesterol level, my bad cholesterol with plant foods. What we've been talking about tonight is perfect. The cardiologist, when he saw this with my family history, said, yeah, you need to be on Lipitor. I'll give you 40 milligrams a day. I said, nah, it's okay. I'll fix it. So it works. I took double my vitamin D to 10,000 units a day. That's perfect. My triglycerides, those came down with a plant-based diet. I'm still eating meat, but I was eating tonight's diet. And so the weight came off and everything corrected itself without prescription drugs. That's kind of what we want you guys to have an experience with. All right, so, oops, I think we did that one twice. I'm going to skip this because I already talked about quality supplements. That's what you should be eating. And this is great advice. Food is your medicine. Food is not your reward for good behavior. Food is your medicine. It doesn't always have to taste great because you're putting good fuel in your body so you're trim and healthy and you have energy. All right, so next week, I want you to skip breakfast. I want you to try this intermittent fasting. I want you to eat from noon to, you pick the 6-hour window. And then don't eat 3 hours before bed. Work on eating fruits and vegetables. I don't care how much you eat. Just 4 vegetables and 2 fruits every day. And then now that you know what to eat, you can eat out at a restaurant. All right, and then from the fitness standpoint, you're just going to keep moving 5 days a week. Complete this section in the workbook. Next week, we're gonna take all the information we talked about tonight and apply it, show you how to put together a healthy diet for you. Okay, so,
Is there a memory food so we can remember all this?
is there a what?
Memory food so we can remember all this?
I don't know. Repetition. Yeah. That's why I quiz you guys, but you guys are catching on. You can know the answers. So does anybody have any questions about this? Yes.
In this chart that you gave us, it says plant proteins, beans, legumes, 1 carb serving, I don't know what that means.
That means if you're trying to keep your carbs to 1 or 2 servings a day and you're eating beans or legumes, they're a protein source, but they're also a carbohydrate source, so you have to count that.
But you only count 1 carb?
For 1 serving of beans, that would be
serving,
1
okay.
carb, yeah,
Okay.
it's by serving, yeah,
Okay,
so if you're,
even if it says 17 carbs, you really
Yes.
only count 1.
right, as 1 carb, yeah. Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Another question.
Yes.
Where does lobster fit on the fish category?
It's okay, it's in there, yeah, it's in there, you can have lobster.
You dip it in butter?
Yeah, dump it in butter, yeah, absolutely, you should. You won't be craving carbs and you get some healthy fat. Butter is not a bad fat. Don't be afraid of fat, unless it's like bad fat, but butter's a good fat. Any other questions? Yeah, Bob?
Just a comment, I know you're not doing the blood work once Skip sent you me last week or on the video. We're gonna have our blood profile again on April 2nd and April 9th, if anyone has.
Oh, excellent. April 2nd, April 9th at Twin City, right?
Well, it'll be at Eastport School.
Eastport School, okay.
Get us a flyer, Bob,
I can, it's just
so
not
we
ready
can
yet.
share.
Good, yeah, that would be great to have your blood checked
We do
again.
the
if we-
A1C, the vitamin D levels, we do thyroid.
Excellent. Perfect. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll see you next week.